about the odds to win the PGA presented by BetMGM? There's Jon Rahm and Scottie Scheffler. Really defined the odds seemingly week after week, especially the majors. There's Rory at plus 1,100. So with more on players to watch next week, check out this week's edition of the Golf Channel podcast with Rex and Lav.
All right, Lav, the year's second major is looming. We went through this before the Masters. I'm sure both of us did awful, but we're going to do our top five heading into the PGA Championship. Let's start with you, number 5.
Rex, when we first pour one out for Jordan Spieth, he definitely would have been in my top 5 favorites for the PGA Championship, but I cannot in good conscience do so with the severe pain that he's now experiencing in his left wrist. In absence of that, I'll go with Rory McIlroy as my number 5 pick for the PGA Championship. His last 3 stroke play starts, not good. Miscut the Players Championship, miscut at the Masters, and a T47 last week at Quail Hollow. Predictably rusty at a place that he's won 3 times. I would think that he's putting the screws to it this week back home in South Florida, knowing what it needs to work on ball striking wise. Unfortunately, that was just about everything. PGA was kind of always the major that I'd circled this year for Rory McIlroy. Familiar with the golf course, PGA setup certainly favor him. It's just not in the form that he was hoping for right now.
I went with Rory at number 5 as well. I thought you were going to come in and give me some heat on that one. I think everything he's going through right now, and we talk about it on this week's Golf Channel podcast with Rex and Lav, please check that out. This is just mental. I don't know if there's anything physical about his swing that's just not right. I think there was a lot of pressure going into the Masters, and he's having a hard time even after that mental health break afterwards, sort of getting over that. But I'll go to 2013, the last time the PGA was played at Oak Hill. He finished tied for 8. And I think you're right. The game sets up really, really well for him. Number 4 for me is Xander Schauffele. And he didn't get it done on Sunday at the Wells Fargo Championship. But I was taken by the idea that he loves every part of his game right now. He talked at length all week long about the idea that there's nothing I need to work on. I don't need to focus. I don't need to tinker. Everything is perfect. I feel good. Again, didn't get it done on Sunday, but I love his chances going in the PGA.
Maybe we should have talked about this. Xander Schauffele is my number 4 pick as well. It was another missed opportunity, right, at Quail Hollow. He was up with 1 shot with 11 holes to go, wound up losing by 4. He does have a tour leading 8 top 10s this season, so he certainly put himself in contention to get a victory. He's just not been able to do so. I'm a little bit concerned, Rex, when it comes to Xander. This is the worst that he's driven it since he's been on the PGA Tour. We saw that cost him in the final round of the Wells Fargo, but the other parts of his game are so good that I'm just going to keep willing this into existence. Xander Schauffele is going to win a major championship, so why not at the PGA? For number 3, this is where I'm bringing in big, bad Brooks Koepka, the 2-time PGA champion, is playing some great golf. Does not matter the tour, does not matter the tournament that he is playing in. The way that he played through 54 holes at the Masters was no fluke. That's what we had come accustomed to seeing Brooks Koepka doing: smart, calculating, punishing golf. I would expect that to continue at Oak Hill at a venue that should suit all of his immense gifts. So Brooks Koepka is falling in the number 3 hole for me.
I got really nervous when you said big bad because I'm going with Tony Finau, and I thought there's no way we're 3 for 3 to start this out. I like Tony going into Oak Hill, coming off a victory in Mexico. He went head-to-head with Jon Rahm. That's always impressive. But I feel like Tony Finau at this stage in his career, there's only one next step. There's only one place for him to go. He's going to continue to win the Mexico Opens and the events that he has won. He's sort of flashed that unbelievable game that puts him into that hierarchy. However, he hasn't done it in the major championships. You talked about this golf course. It's a big, bad golf course. I think it fits Tony perfectly. For number 2, this one, there's no way you and I have the same because I'm going with Jon Rahm. Even though he's world number 1, I have another idea for my top pick. But when you look at what he has done this season, even in Mexico where he didn't win, but he still played very, very well, I think he's going to be rested. I think he's going to be ready, having taken some time off following that victory at the Masters. And I really, really like him at the PGA.
I have no idea where you're going with number 1 if you do not have Jon Rahm number 1. But my number 2 pick is Scottie Scheffler. Look, if it's a big tournament, like, he is absolutely going to be there. He has not finished worse than 12th since October. If he just has like an average putting week, his ball striking is so good right now that he's going to have another great opportunity to win. He finished top 10 at the Masters when he was nearly last in the field in putting. That's been a major point of emphasis for Scottie Scheffler between the year's first and second major. I'm very curious to see how he plays this week at TPC Craig Ranch and what is going to be a shootout. He's going to need to putt the ball well. So Scottie Scheffler is my number 2, which, of course, obviously, I don't know why you would have anyone other than Jon Rahm in your number one spot. He probably needed more than 2 weeks off, right, after the Mexico tournament, kind of debriefing from the Masters that he never was able to do so. Rex, he is gaining an absurd 2.6 strokes per round on the field. That's like pretty Tiger-esque. Not quite Tiger territory, but it's certainly approaching that if he can continue that for the rest of the season. It's been a minute since we've seen these kind of numbers. Jon Rahm is an overwhelming favorite for me heading in to the PGA Championship. Who could you possibly have at number one?
I like that. You brought it up with Scotty. I mean, I am kind of concerned about his putting. And when we talk about putting and putting issues at Augusta National, you always have to take that with a grain of salt because it is one of the year's most demanding tests on that particular part of your game. But it seems to me he's a little streakier than I would like. So I need to see something better. For number one, for me, I'm going with Justin Thomas. He is the defending champ last time I checked at the PGA Championship. He played really well at Wells Fargo. I think when you look at his ball striking, everything was there. But probably the part that pushed him over the top for me is he just started using aim point last week. And I feel like this is something that's going to help him simplify the process. I'm not quite sure if this is the answer for his inconsistent putting, but when we spoke with him last week, the idea is I just need to come up with a better routine. I need to get into the ball, see the line, see the speed, and step in instead of spending a lot of time thinking about it. I talked with his dad, Mike Thomas. They feel like this is going to put him in the right direction.
I like JT too. He also doesn't have a finish better than 10th in the past 3 months. He's outside the top 130 and putting. His approach play has fallen off compared to last year. He'd be in my top 10, but I certainly wouldn't put him right now, unfortunately, inside my top 5.
For more on next week's PGA Championship and all the news in golf, check out the Golf Channel podcast with Rex and Lav.